Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. Today's video is a collection of thrift flips that I have finished off in the farmhouse style, and here's a quick glimpse. The first project is a small wooden tray that I found at the thrift shop, and you've probably walked past them a million times, and you may even have one at home. But there was a design kind of carved into the wood in the tray, and I didn't want to keep that part. And so I filled that part up with wood putty, and I had to go back a couple times because when you put wood putty in areas like that, you need to let it dry, because then once it's dry, it shows you maybe the little parts that you didn't fill up all the way. And even though I knew that I was going to be covering it up, I still wanted to make sure that it was smooth on the bottom. And after I got it, the wood putty put in and I sanded it down, then I used Dixie Belle Boss, which is something that's going to cover up any sort of stains that might come through, especially in the wood. And I just wanted something on top of that wood putty. And what I'm doing now is I'm painting the entire tray, both the inside and the outside, with Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint. And I'm also painting the bottom, and on the handles, I'm painting it even on the part where you would reach up and pick up the tray. Because if you're going to be gifting it or even selling it in a vendor booth, you're going to want to make sure that all parts of it are painted. So have you seen these trays? And if you have seen these trays, what would you use it for? Would you leave it with the design in the bottom, or would you maybe use it like this? So the next thing I did after I finally got it all painted, and I made sure that I put a sealer on it and made sure that dry. And it's been sort of humid in North Carolina lately, and so I actually left it outside for a little bit and then brought it inside under the air conditioning just to make sure it was sealed really well. And this is a transfer that comes from Redesign by Prima. And I can't remember the name of it. I'll leave it in the description box. But I wanted to put sort of a neutral design on it because I don't know what the person who buys it is going to be using it for. So I didn't want to make it specifically for a kitchen or for a bathroom. So it just is something that's just sort of neutral. And it takes a little bit to kind of get it all transferred. And just remember, when you're pulling up that transfer, if it grabs at it just a little bit, you're going to lay it back down and push onto that transfer just a little bit more. And then once you get it all finished, then you're going to want to burnish it, which means to just rub over it slightly. But isn't that pretty? And it's just a small tray that you could use anywhere, both in the kitchen or the bathroom, or even in the den sitting on the coffee table for maybe your remote controls. And then I made like a little hang tag as well to put on the handle. But I really like this tray. Now the next project is one of those metal utility boxes. And there's parts of it that I did not get filmed, and I apologize. But the part I didn't get filmed was I just painted the inside and the outside. And I actually ended up taking the handle off. But this is part of a napkin, and I really liked it. And the napkin is more one of those taller napkins. It's like a dinner napkin. And really the design was up and down, but it was too large to put on the side, but I kind of moved the napkin around just a little bit and decided that I liked it sideways, which was fine. And then what I did was I put a bow on it. Now, the reason I'm showing this part right here is there's this small little thing you can buy, and it's called a bow dabra. And they make larger ones. In fact, I have a large one, and they make wonderful bows for wreaths. And so what you do is the part that's laying down there right now is part of the black buffalo check ribbon. Sometimes when you make bows, you might use a piece of floral wire to lay down where that is. But because this is not on a wreath and I'm just going to hot glue it onto the side of the utility box, I wanted the part that wraps the bow around to be in the same fabric or the same material as the actual ribbon. And you just put in however many layers of bows that you want on it, and always start with a larger loop and then go down to a medium loop and then a smaller loop. And there's this little stick that you stick down through the top and you press down really hard, and that pushes that ribbon all together. Now see where I'm pulling that ribbon out that I had tucked up underneath, and I pull it up and I don't pull the other ribbon up. So I tie a knot in it and then I push it down through that slit and then I pull it up and it makes the bow. But isn't that so simple? And then the little part that I had tucked underneath, that's what I'm going to be wrapping around that, just so that it has a middle part to the bow. I'm not sure if the knot that's inside of the bow, I guess if that's a good description. I wanted it to be the same. Now you could use a contrasting ribbon. If you wanted to just use a plain black ribbon for the knot on the bow, you could do that as well. And that would be the part that you would be laying down first and have it tucked up underneath, and that would be what you would be using to tie off on the knot. So I'm not real sure if I described it the best, but once you make that bow for the first time, it's so easy, and that's the only way that I make bows now. I know that sometimes if you buy wired ribbon, you can twist it one way and another to get a bow, especially on a wreath, but I just think this is so much easier for me. And I use both of them. I use both the mini Bodabra and the larger one for when I make wreaths. And then that part that I'm twisting around for the knot, I twist it around this way and that. And then I end up using a glue gun at the back. And then once you finish it all up, I wanted to have 4 little parts hanging down, 4 little ribbons hanging down. Then I just used my scissors to cut them at a slant. The next project is just a plain picture frame that I painted and then I distressed. And I didn't put any sort of darkening wax on it at all. I wanted it to be white, but I did want that distressing to come through. And this is just a small handheld sander. I wouldn't want to use my electrical sander because I wanted to be able to just kind of sand it in different parts. Now, if I still went on and put a clear sealer on it, and I tried putting a darker sealer on, but I didn't like it, so I wiped it off. And that is the beauty of if you put a clear sealer on first, and then when you put that dark sealer on and you don't like it, you can pull that off real fast by using some of that clear sealer and putting it on your rag and wiping it off. So it makes it really easy. So the next part is what I put on the inside. So there was a piece of a cardboard inside of that frame, and all I did was I took a page out of a hymnal and I just used a glue stick to glue it onto that cardboard. And now what I'm doing is this is that same napkin, and I'm using my water pen so that I can isolate that design that I wanted on there. I really didn't want the black buffalo check on it at all. I wanted just the greenery. And I did not use Mod Podge to put this on. I think I used a glue stick to put the napkin on as well, which is something that you can do. But it's mostly when it's going to be in a place where nobody's going to mess with it. So I decided I've got it where I wanted it to be. Then I'm going to use my glue stick and I'm going to get that all where I know that the design is going to be. Now remember, this is also going to be under glass. And then I lay the napkin on top, right up underneath that. And I want to make sure that the title of the song shows up. And even though it's longer, I'm not going to cut it off. And really all I do is I just take that napkin and I turn it over, and then I just glue the rest of the napkin on the back side. And actually it doesn't show through at all, and it makes it just a little bit stiffer when you put it in the frame. And that was kind of what I was going for. But what's really neat is because that napkin is still going to be translucent just a little bit. If you look up close, you can actually see the page with the words on it. And it was one of my favorite songs growing up, which was Stand Up for Jesus. And that's what we all should do every day. We should stand up for Jesus and share our faith with others. So now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get it all in the frame and put the back on it, and that's it. And then I've got it placed actually on a recipe stand in the vignette. But I do put the glass in. Now this next project is a really large mason jar that I got when my parents, both of my in-laws passed away last year, and my mother-in-law was a huge canner. So I used big Dixie Belle Slick Stick on it, and then I painted it white, and I'm using some wired burlap ribbon. I think I got it at the Dollar Tree, but I may have gotten it at Hobby Lobby. And this is the part that I didn't do too well on videotaping. And so I just hot glued it on the back. And I didn't tape the part of me doing this, but I'm going to tell you about what I did. I just took that same ribbon, and I could have used a one wide piece of black buffalo check, but frankly, I didn't have any. And so I just used 3 strips. And then I also found a mold on Amazon of a little cow. And so that's what I put on it. So the next project is just a little pan that I found. It's just a cheap little aluminum pan. And I use Dixie Belle Slick Stick on the inside. And then I got it all painted white on the outside. And then after I got it all painted on the top and on the bottom and on the handle and on the top of the handle and on the bottom of the handle, then it might not show up very well. But I used a black magic marker, and I went around the edges of the pan and of the handle to sort of mimic what something would look like if it was enamelware. And it wasn't hard to paint, but it was so small. I think maybe they would have used it as a small egg poacher for a single egg. And make sure that if you do have something that's slick, to either spray paint it, to put like something on it where the paint will grip onto it, or use the Dixie Belle Slick Stick. Sorry, my hand's in the way. But I actually like this little pan, and I'm afraid that my granddaughter's going to steal it and use it in her play kitchen because it is so small. And then once I get it all painted, I really had a hard time deciding what I was going to do with it. But once I got it in the vignette, I decided that I would just take a little bird's nest with some bird eggs and put inside of it. Now this project is a canister that I found at a thrift shop. And the transfer that I'm putting on it came from that same set with Redesign with Prima. And it's got a rooster on it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought I would never get this transfer on. I didn't paint it at all. All I did, I just left it as is. I got it cleaned up. I cleaned it up with alcohol. And I still have the lid for it, but I don't know if I'll use the lid on it. I used it more as something to put flowers in it. But I had a time getting this transfer on. And so I'll show you me struggling with it just a little bit. And I finally just took it off of the table, and I laid it in my lap and just really pushed down on that transfer really hard. And I'm not sure why it wouldn't go on real well. I don't know if maybe there was some dirt on the surface, even though I cleaned it really well. Or maybe I should have put something on it before I put the transfer on, because I literally only just cleaned it really well, and then that was it. But there were a lot of little pieces to it that, see the part where I'm pushing down, those little teeny pieces of the transfer, those were the hardest pieces to get on. So I just laid it in my lap, and it took me just a little bit to finally get it on. But once I got it on, I liked it. And then I have it sitting in my vignette, and I've just got some flowers in it. Now, you could also use it in the kitchen for like as a canister set or to put utensils in. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe for this channel. And I just appreciate all that you do. Have a great day.